Hi, I'm Lauren.
And I'm Matt.
And this is Publish and Prosper,
Where publishing, e-commerce, and marketing collide.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Publish and Prosper. Happy New Year, first of all. This is our first episode of January 2025. It's episode number 53. And we are going to capitalize on the tried and true, if your New Year's resolution this year is to write a book in 2025, we are here to help.
Well, first of all, congrats that you made it to 2025.
That's so true.
Right? So
yeah.
Pat yourself on the back for that one, especially if you have the time to sit down and listen to this ridiculous podcast. That means you're doing something right, or hoping to do something right.
Or, yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
I see what you're doing there. Okay. Maybe you're doing something wrong then.
I don't know. If you are using this podcast as a form of procrastination to avoid writing, stop it. But also keep listening.
Yeah.
We're off to a great start.
Yeah. I hadn't even thought of my New Year's resolutions, actually. Have you?
Yeah.
You going to share them, or are you one of those people that believes it?
No, I don't. I actually have, I don't feel any kind of way about sharing them one way or another.
Yeah.
I definitely will. Except it's kind of weird because my New Year's resolution is to be less of a people pleaser. So make of that what you will.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to make of that. What people are you pleasing currently that you need to do less of?
Well, apparently not my boss.
Oh, man.
No, a little bit more like it's okay to say no to things every now and then. I think that's my New Year's resolution is you don't have to say yes to every single thing that comes your way. It's okay to sometimes say I'm busy that weekend, or I'm not busy that weekend, but I want to take some time for myself, or no, I'd rather not do that. And instead I'm going to do this thing.
On a little more of a personal level.
Yes.
Okay.
Not on a professional level.
I was
no.
Wait a second.
This is me quiet quitting.
Oh.
No, absolutely not. No, just a little bit more taking some more time for myself this year instead of spreading myself too thin by trying to do all of the things all of the time.
Well, at the risk of putting myself in the line of fire, what is quiet quitting? I've heard that referenced before, but never cared enough to stop and ask what it meant.
Yeah, it's basically the idea of putting in less effort at work. You're not quitting. You're not quitting your job. You are still working your 9 to 5, but you're decreasing the amount of effort that you're putting in on a daily basis.
Why would anybody want to do that? Wouldn't that lead to termination?
Yeah, probably. I think it stems from the mentality of I am only putting in the amount of work that I'm getting paid for, or I am only putting in the amount of effort that I see it a lot in conversations where people will talk about they'll get their performance review, and their performance review will be everything is great. You're doing exactly what we want you to be doing. We have no criticisms, no negatives. You're doing great.
No notes.
No notes. You're getting an average because you are not exceeding expectations.
Oh.
So you're getting a 3 out of 5 because you're not going above and beyond. You're doing exactly what's expected of you. And then kind of the turnaround of that is well, then I'm only doing an average amount of work instead of...
But isn't that really just poor delivery of a performance review?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, I'm speaking from the other side of that fence. That should have been delivered better. You're doing good, but it's also average. Here's some areas where we can elevate that if you're interested, and this will get you to this next level, and which, by the way, often brings more money and or other things, right?
Yes, absolutely. It is. I mean, it's something that...
So at the end of the day, it's still a fault of management.
It is. That's exactly what I was just going to say. That is a thing that it's one of those many things right now that is being turned around onto the fault of the employees, and it is actually just bad management.
Mostly.
Mostly.
Yeah.
But it's not something that is happening here. I just said I'm not quite quitting.
I would hope not, because otherwise I need a new New Year's resolution.
No.
Oh.
No. I have a lot of work to do. I'm excited about the work we're going to do this year.
Maybe I should do performance reviews.
No, please don't.
Maybe that's where the problem is.
I don't think any of us would enjoy that, including you.
God. Oh, I definitely would enjoy it.
No, we don't need them. It's fine. We've got a great year ahead of us. I'm really excited for some of the things we're going to be doing this year, some of the events that we're going to be going to, some of the things we're going to be trying, whether it's on the podcast or in Lulu in general. And I'm really excited for all the people that are listening to this that are going to publish a book in 2025.
Well, hopefully that's everybody.
Yeah. All of you.
Including us.
Yeah.
I mean, how long have you been writing a book, plural, books, more than one?
You know, I had this thought yesterday, actually, because I have a book that I've been working on. First of all, I literally
notice she's not answering the question.
Grad school for this. No, I am going to answer this question. Okay. It's just a roundabout way to do it. I was thinking about this yesterday. I have a book, or like a draft of a book that I've been working on that was first inspired by a song on Taylor Swift's album Lover. Since I started working on that book, yeah, that's fine.
Microphone.
Since I started working on that book and have not finished it, she has released 4 new albums and re-released like 5 other albums and gone on a 2-year-long record-breaking tour and released a concert movie. And I am still plucking away at this one like 70,000 word book that I've
So for everybody listening to this, since this episode is going to be about healthy writing habits, I'm just going to throw this out there right now. Buyer beware.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Oh my God.
I am qualified to talk about this in the sense
you are
that
qualified to talk about it, of course.
Like, I do know what I'm talking about here. I went to grad school for creative writing and have an MFA in creative writing. I have done the work. I just haven't actually finished anything.
You want me to do this episode so you can pay attention and absorb it all?
Actually, yeah. I'd love to see what you have to say about building a healthy writing habit.
Oh, I got it.
Okay.
I'll just take notes, okay? We want to see you finish that book.
I can't wait.
Or books.
What about you? Are you going to publish a book this year?
Yeah.
I think we should. I genuinely think that we should set this challenge to each other.
Okay.
By the end of 2025.
All right.
We're going to have written a book.
Yes.
Each.
Published a book.
Okay, well.
Published a book.
I was hoping you wouldn't notice this
of course
slight
I
wording
notice
change. I'll take that deal.
But for you and I, you could publish something you wrote in a matter of days.
That's true.
So that's really the least of your concerns.
That's true.
You just got to get the manuscript done.
That's the hard part.
Edited, formatted. Well, lucky for you, we know people.
We know a lot of people and
platforms.
Have a lot of resources available.
And tools.
A lot of tools.
That's right.
A lot of options.
If anybody out there wants to apply to be Lauren's editor, just email us at podcast@lulu.com. Preferably you don't have any experience, because I'd like to win this contest. Really, all the experience you need is just understanding Taylor Swift references, and I think you'll be able to edit her book.
Unfortunately, there absolutely are Taylor Swift references in the book.
What do your bracelets say today?
That's great segue. More Taylor Swift references. There's the classic Old Habits Die Screaming. We've done that one before.
How apropos.
You're on Your Own, Kid, which this is the second one that I've made of these, because the first one that I made of these I gave to Nathan at ConvertKit at Craft and Commerce like years ago.
Yeah. I always forget he's a Swiftie.
I didn't know it until we got to the after party at Craft and Commerce, and the whole thing was Taylor Swift themed. And I was like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me at a conference. This is great.
Oh, God.
It was fantastic. And then the last one says, it's fine.
It's fine. Why didn't you use the colors of fire?
I thought about it. I have some that are really cool that are like fiery colors like that, but I tend to match my bracelets to my outfits, and I don't wear a lot of red. So I have a lot of red bracelets because I like how they look, and then I don't wear them very often because they don't match a lot of what I'm wearing.
I'm instantly regretting my decisions today so far. So.
I don't know what I expected or what you expected, honestly.
What a way to start the year.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
You're on your own, kid.
Exactly.
All right.
Also, fun fact, that is the song that the bracelet that started the friendship bracelet thing. I know.
I don't know
It's
what
okay.
I'm supposed to do with that.
Absolutely nothing.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
That's about what I'm going to do
That's
with
a
it.
tidbit of information for you to immediately forget.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
I don't have a lot of room left up there, so I can't afford to junk it up with that stuff.
More importantly, let's talk about if you are publishing a book in 2025, or if your goal is to publish a book in 2025, and you know that the first thing you have to do is write it.
I would say even if your goal is to just start writing in 2025, forget about the publishing part. That'll naturally come. But I mean, let's one foot at a time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for you.
Baby steps, okay? It's all about baby steps. But no, in this case, that first step, that 1 foot in front of the other, the first thing you got to do is build that writing habit, because it really is something that you can't just rely on like, I'm going to sit down and write for 8 hours every day and I'm going to bang this book out in like 2 weeks. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that do that. There are some incredibly prolific authors that do that make it their full-time job to sit down and write for 8 hours a day.
I have to stop you and be fair to you for a second. So earlier we were joking around about you not finishing, but really that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about writing habits, and the finish line is different for everybody, right? So I have to apologize. Your finish line might not have been 5 years ago when you started it, 8 years ago, whatever it was.
It was 5. It was 5 years ago.
But everybody's finish line is going to be different. So I think while I'm apologizing to you, we should put that out there very front and clear that developing really good writing habits doesn't necessarily correlate to when your book will be published. That's
Right.
up to you, and you can work backwards from that if you want to, which will also be determined for the most part, the kind of book you're writing and why you're writing it, right?
Yes.
So again, my apologies to you.
I accept your apology.
You may have really great writing habits. You just haven't reached your publishing deadline yet.
Spoiler alert. I don't.
See, I was giving you an
I
out.
know. You're giving
and you just
me the
blew
out.
it. Forget it.
No,
just
but
edit
that's,
all of that
but
out.
listen, that's my point.
I don't even want my apology on record.
But
you just
but you are correct, and you're completely right to say that. In that, that is where it falls apart for me. Is that I have not built up the necessary writing habits to get this done. And I know what I'm supposed to do, and I just haven't done it, because it is important to actually, that's what I'm saying. You cannot just rely on the like, oh, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take weekends here and there, or I'm going to do like I'm going to write when I feel like it and when the mood strikes. Like,
Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it doesn't work. So that's why it's important that if this is your goal, is to write more. And this is also, let's say we're not even talking about publishing a book this year. Let's say
I think for you, you should not be allowed to make another bracelet until every 500 words that you write, you should be allowed to make a new bracelet.
let's up it to 1,000.
Okay.
Okay.
You cannot make another bracelet until you've written 1,000 more words.
Good thing I made 8 last night.
Then you got 8,000 words to write. No.
Oh no.
So from now on, no new bracelets. They each have to coincide with 1,000 words written.
Okay.
Because you sure as hell got a lot of time to make bracelets.
I know. Well, yeah. Okay. But I'm usually making bracelets while I'm doing other things.
Like not writing.
But I'm not. Yeah. Okay. And I'm watching TV instead of writing. You're right. You're right. But okay, 2 really important things that Matt has just introduced right here in this. See,
You're welcome.
I knew you'd have something to contribute to this.
I'm done now.
The first thing, when you're building a writing habit, you have to know what your goals are. And that's whether your goal is, I want to build a good writing habit. So I want to get in the daily routine of writing, and that is my goal. Great. Maybe your goal is, I want to have a 50-day streak where I wrote every day for 50 days straight. That's enough time to build a habit. That's enough time to make this a routine. Perfect. If you are jumping right into, I want to publish a book this year and my goal is to write a book this year. Okay. What kind of book are you writing? That's kind of going to help you determine like average word count. And then you're going to sit there and say, okay, maybe I'm writing a 60,000 word book. I'm going to attempt to do math off the top of my head right now. So feel free to jump in anytime. I'm going to write a 60,000 word book this year. I'm going to set the goal of writing 1,000 words a day, every day. What is that? 60 days? Help me.
Whoa. No wonder you haven't gotten anything written.
Am I wrong?
I forgot what the question was now. What was the question? What was the math? I'll do it for you.
60,000 divided by 1,000.
60,000 divided by 1,000 is 60.
Yeah. So I was right.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said if your goal is to write a 60,000 word book and you're going to set yourself the goal of writing 1,000 words every day, it's going to take you 60 days.
Oh, I thought you said 30 days. Sorry.
No, that's on you, not me.
That is on me.
I did get it right. It's on record. You can hear it.
I was actually like daydreaming.
That's fair. That's fine.
You were right. 60. Good job.
All right. Great. So whatever it is, whatever your goals are, or even if you're not trying to write a book and you're just trying to say like, I want to write more blog content this year. I've heard that long form writing is more popular. I want to write some podcast episodes. I want to write scripts for webinars or write, I want to do whatever it is. Like you have to know what your goals are so that you can start building that routine of you're working towards a specific target every day.
Well, can I play devil's advocate for a second? And I know that a lot of the stuff out there speaks to daily, but I would also argue that if you just had a goal, that it could be weekly, right? So for some people like myself, there's some days there's just no way I could write. There's just no way, like based on workload and home, personal stuff and just whatever. There's just some days it's not gonna happen. But then there's other days where quite honestly, like I could literally spend an hour to 2 hours writing if I wanted to. So I think for some people, and maybe you'll get to this, is it doesn't necessarily have to be daily, but giving yourself some sort of chronologically based goal or deadline, right? Like I'm going to write, we'll use your example, 60,000 words in a 30-day period. And maybe tracking it that way either by the month or the week is easier for some people. Because for me, if I'm faced with anything that has to be done on a daily like deadline, automatically my brain, I'm already at a default. Like I'm just like, there's no way. Yep. Like I immediately start thinking about all the reasons why today I won't be able to do it. And maybe tomorrow, but now I'm looking at 3 days out like, okay. So I think for some people, they maybe thrive on that pressure of like a daily.
Oh, absolutely.
Others, I think, perform a little better when they have, some looser sort of. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Okay. And that's actually, I'm going to quote myself here because I wrote in the outline, consistency does not have to mean rigidity. And I think that that's something that's really important because that is always exactly what you just described is always what trips me up. And that's always where my like habit building effort when it comes to writing falls apart is that I get too committed to like, okay, I told myself I was going to write every day. And there are some days where it's just not feasible. Like there are some days where I leave the house at 7:45 to come to the office and I get home at 11 o'clock at night. And when was I supposed to write in that window of time?
What were you doing after 4 o'clock?
Remember when I said...
Playing Dungeons and Dragons.
No. Sometimes, unfortunately. But remember when I said going to be less of a people pleaser next year?
I gotcha.
That's what I'm saying. I don't need to be doing this thing where I'm out until 11 o'clock on a weeknight.
I agree. That's way too late.
It is. But that was always where I fall apart because I'll go, oh, well, I didn't have time to write today and I just broke the streak and that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to bother anymore. And
your boy's in bed by 9 o'clock.
Oh, that sounds great.
I'm not asleep, but I'm in bed by 9.
Yeah, you got a book.
11 o'clock, they better be a really good friend.
I mean, yeah, I have a lot of really good friends. I'm very lucky that way.
Nobody get me out of bed at that time unless one of my kids stranded on the side of the road somewhere.
Well, that's fair. I know. But the point is that I agree with you that, while a lot of people want to talk about the importance of writing every day, I think it is more important to set yourself consistent goals that are achievable for you, that work within your, even if you say like despite the fact that I can't get this writing habit thing down, I am actually very big on habit tracking. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and like daily habit tracking in a planner.
Oh,
We've talked about this. I make my own planner every year. But like that to me, I'm very streak based. Like I'm very like, as soon as I have a streak going for something, I don't want to break the streak. I'm not motivated to work out because I want to work out. I'm motivated to work out because I've closed my ring 30 days in a row.
You've gamified your life.
Yes. I treat myself like a Tamagotchi, basically. But yes, absolutely. I've gamified my life, and that's the system that works for me. But I also recognize that it wouldn't work for plenty of other people. So that is like a key element of any kind of habit building, but specifically like a writing habit like this is you have to know yourself well enough to know what's going to work for you. And if you're going to say like, okay, I know that with my lifestyle, like I'm busy, I have a full-time job, I'm trying to get this small business off the ground, I have a family, I have kids, I have responsibilities outside of this, maybe writing every single day, maybe setting aside an hour at 6 o'clock in the morning every day to write is not gonna work for you. Okay, so what will work for you? Can you say 5 out of 7 days a week? So then you have a little bit of flexibility. If there's one day that you're like, oh, I didn't get to it today, but I'll do it tomorrow. Is there some flexibility in your schedule where you can say, I'm going to commit to 4 hours of writing in a week? And if that means, a half hour every day and a little bit of extra time somewhere else.
What do you think is better? Like committing or, trying to set goals that are word-based or time-based?
I think it depends on what your...
I'm sorry. I can't stop thinking about you as a Tamagotchi toy. If you're not a Tamagotchi toy for Halloween this year, I'm going to be very upset.
All right. Yeah. I'll make a note. I'll pin this as a reminder. I'll make a note to myself for that.
What a great reference.
Thanks. Thanks. It's fine. I mean, I literally had to trick myself into drinking water, and now I like get cranky if I go more than a few hours, or not even a few hours, like an hour without drinking water.
Why do you think it depends on what you're writing as to whether or not you set goals based on word count or, a time-based goal like, hey, I want to spend an hour a week?
So I'm actually going to,
regardless of output,
was going to renege on that immediately after I said it because I don't actually agree with what I was about to just say. I do think that it matters, and I do think that word count goal is better than time goal because I think it's really easy to waste time when you're writing.
But by that same token, it's really easy to waste words when you have a count you're trying to reach and a deadline, right? So like if I think about when I was in high school, for example, or even college, you're given, an essay that's based on word count.
Sure.
99.5% of the kids turning those things in. Typically, you get towards the end of that essay and it's just a bunch of gibberish because they were trying to get the required word count down before the deadline.
Right.
So it was less about quality and more about meeting that word count. So I'm wondering if, and I've never given myself a word count deadline, by the way, for writing, but I'm wondering if, and maybe people out there can attest to this or not, but I'm wondering if it's the same phenomena whereby if I tell myself, okay, I'm not going to have a daily goal because that's just crazy, but weekly, I'd either like to write 3 hours per week or, I don't know, let's just say 50,000 words. No, 30,000 words.
In a week?
15,000 words.
Okay. Sure.
My point is...
Matt's going to finish his book before I am, that's for sure.
I probably will. My point is that if I'm faced with having to finish up 15,000 words before the end of the week versus just logging 3 hours trying to write some quality things, I may find myself coming down to the end of that week going, God, I still got to get 2,500 more words out. Let me just crank something out real quick, and I'll come back later and edit it and make sure it makes sense. You know what I mean?
So, okay, two things in response to that. First of all, the only person that you're screwing over in that scenario is yourself.
Well, of course, but
So-
that's just how your brain works.
Yes, that's fair. But even in that case, like my argument is going to be that it is better to have extraneous words on page because you can go back and edit those. You can't, like, I always think it is so much easier to trim down verbose writing than it is to build up non-existent writing. I like editing more than I like writing. That's one of the things that I've learned about myself. That's one of the things that slows me down a lot. Okay. And that's a whole separate conversation.
I'll buy into that.
But
okay.
I think that is fair to be like, okay, you know, I'm going to try to get 2,000 words on page today. And even if later when you go back and edit, only 1,000 of those are usable, that is still better than saying I'm going to write for an hour today and I need good background music while I'm writing, and this is just not doing it for me. So I'm going to build a playlist really quick of like vibey songs that go with the vibe that I'm writing. And now all of a sudden it's been 40 minutes of me building this playlist, and I'm going to like word vomit for 20 minutes onto a page and get 500 words out of it. Like, that's not adding any value.
I mean, it's quite a visual too. Not sure why we had to bring that into the mix, but okay.
All right. I don't know. I think it's fine. One of the other things that kind of goes hand in hand with that quality of writing is that I think that one of the things that people get stuck on a lot, and by people, I mean me, but also I know other people do too, of the pressure of what I'm writing right now has to be good.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll spend like just to the same point about word count versus like time spent writing. I will get caught up in the nitty gritty details of things, and I will agonize for like 10 minutes over like
the conjunction, the right conjunction.
Yeah. Like, do I use this or like,
that's fair. Okay.
The hands down the worst thing that I like, the thing that I have the hardest time with when it comes to writing is naming characters.
Why?
And I don't know. I think I have too many associations with too many names. And so I'm always trying to like, do I know anybody with this name? Does this name sound accurate? Is this name like really not accurate, but like, does this name match the, like when you hear this name for the first time, is the mental image that comes to mind going to match the character in question? But I will do that for background characters. It'll literally be like they're going to a party at somebody's house and you're never going to even meet the person whose party they're at. Like they're just like the reference point for whose house they're going to. And I'll spend 15 minutes trying to figure out the name of the person whose house they're going to. Like that is unnecessary and a waste of time. And one of the things that has made my writing time go a lot smoother is that when I hit roadblocks like that, I will literally just put brackets, name in all caps, highlighted a specific color, and then move on with my writing. So I think that's really important to try to recognize like the things that slow you down. The point is that your writing doesn't have to be perfect right now. That's not like whether it is because you are writing offline and you don't have access to spell check right now, and so your writing is full of misspelled words, or because you are just, you know, stream of consciousness getting words on paper, whatever it is, like that's fine. The point is to write, and then you can go back and edit it later.
Yeah, I think you said it best. I think you can move on, but I do think you said it best. Like, if there's nothing to edit, you can't edit it. Like,
right.
You just got to get words to paper, and,
right.
and I think that I fall back on you know that argument earlier. I think you're right, because I could easily see also where just how a word count might intimidate me or get me kind of tripped up in my own head. The reverse of that, or the converse of that, or inverse of that, sorry, is that, you know, I also could find myself wasting 20 minutes on some arbitrary, like, wait a second, is this real? Like, if they're supposed to be in this scene, would this scene actually have this type of body of water there? Yeah, so right. I agree. I think the goal would be to get something on paper, because you can always go back and edit it later. So agreed. Yes. Yeah.
Another thing and I'm cautiously giving this piece of advice, but I always like to have a backup prompt or like something, because there's nothing worse, and we've talked about this before when we were talking about like using AI writing tools and stuff like that. There's nothing worse than when you're just looking at a blinking cursor on a blank Word doc and you've suddenly forgot just like every word that exists in the English language. and the pressure, and then you've got that building pressure of like, I'm working on, like, I'm trying to establish this writing habit and I can't, and like, if I don't get something out, then I'm wasting my time and I'm not going to do the things that I need to do. And it all just like spirals. Maybe some of you don't have anxiety, and you don't feel that way, but some of us do.
Yeah, I feel like this episode is hitting way too close to home for you. Like, this is turning, I mean, by the end of this, it's going to be a therapy session. I don't know if any of us are prepared for that.
How many of these podcast episodes have not been therapy sessions in some way or another? You gave me a platform.
Okay. That's
okay,
fair.
great.
Once again, it's the manager's fault.
Always. Always. But no, so one of the things that I like to do is have like a quick little 5-minute writing prompt on hand for those days when you're stuck, for those days where you can't get the words flowing. I'm not saying every day. And some people might recommend starting every single writing session with a little like 5-minute free association prompt that you write a paragraph and then move on from. If that works for you,
what would an example of that be? Just out of curiosity, if I wanted to try it.
You know, it can be a lot of different things. There are a lot of like writing journals or guided journals out there that you can go through, and it'll be literally just like every page of it will have a question at the top or like a...
So you're basically saying any kind of writing prompt.
Any kind of writing prompt. I mean, it can even be something like... It can be something like you woke up this morning and all the electricity was out.
Well, you got bigger problems then.
What do?
You go pay your bill.
Well, maybe.
You're not writing anything if the electricity's out.
Worldwide, electricity is out. As far as you can tell,
still got bigger
electricity
problems.
does not exist. What do you do? But that's exactly the point. So that's the prompt. You woke up this morning and there was no electricity as far as you could tell. Mm-hmm. What do you do? How do you react?
Gotcha.
But you can also, your writing prompt could be a challenge. I had a professor one time in grad school. I loved this prompt. She challenged us to write an entire paragraph. The content could be whatever we wanted, but we could only use 1-syllable words.
Why would everything have to be monosyllabic? I don't understand.
It was a challenge. It was just, and it was really challenging, and it was really fun because it also forced you to read your writing out loud, which is always my number one tip when it comes to editing. We don't have to talk about that now, but reading your writing out loud is a great way to edit. But it was a really good way to kind of like shift my perspective on it and be like, oh, how do I find new ways to say whatever it is that I'm trying to say using only 1-syllable words? It was cool. It was a fun, but like something like that is taking the pressure off of you to like write the next chapter of your book or write the blog post that you're supposed to be working on or whatever it is. And instead just get the gears turning. Like it's, you know, it's like walking on the treadmill for 5 minutes before you start running.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thanks. There are great options for you if you want to do something like that. I don't have any specific writing journals that I would recommend, but there are a ton on the Lulu bookstore if you want to support an indie author. There are also plenty you can find. If you have a favorite writer, check out their recommendations. They might have one that they like. They might have written one that they like. One of my favorite authors has a 5-minute daily prompt writing journal. I have it. I wrote in it twice, but I do have it. You know, there's always those. There's also, I'm also at least one app that I know of, the Writer's Hour, which is the London writing salon.
Oh.
They do like a daily prompt, and it's at different times, I think, throughout the day. And they also, I don't know if they use the term writing sprint, but this is a thing if you are, I'm getting ahead of myself, but if you've ever joined any writing communities, a writing sprint is when everybody will say like, okay, you know, we're going to set a timer for 15 minutes and everybody is going to write for 15 minutes and then we're going to hit stop. So something like that is a fun way to try to like, you know.
That sounds paralyzing, by the way.
I know. These things work for some people and not for others. And that's fine.
No, I don't think it's a bad idea. But to me, it sounds paralyzing.
Yeah. it could be good. It could be rough. Another great way to work on your writing habit is accountability. You know, if the only person that knows that you're trying to build this habit is you are completely responsible and accountable for your own, for your own efforts.
Whatever the size of our audience is, we're accountable to them because we said that we would both finish and publish a book in 2025 this year.
That's true. We're going to have to remember to do a monthly check-in on that.
Right. I like the writing in public version of accountability. Yes. I think a lot of people do it more these days. Mm-hmm. And I love that, especially on the nonfiction side of things, people are really using that whole blog to book type of approach as well too. So writing in public, but then also, and I think you alluded to this earlier, potentially, having dual purposes for that content, I think is really cool. But yeah, I think writing in public has become a much bigger trend now, and I think people really like it.
What do you mean by writing, or what do you mean by dual purposes?
So, if I'm writing in public, let's say I'm creating content, and I said nonfiction, I'm writing a blog article and I post it publicly. This is an article on, whatever, the 5 top ways to ensure engagement across your social media channels, right? And then the next week, now I've set my audience up, by the way, to say, I'm writing these blog articles. These will eventually become chapters in my book, or the beginnings of chapters in my book, or something along those lines. But, then the next week you're writing and posting something on your blog. So at the end of the process, you've got not only now blog content for however long you've been doing it, but now you basically have all the chapters of a book that you're going to publish at the end as well, or expand upon for a book. You know what I mean? So having content that ends up being dual purpose, it's not just for your book, but it actually serves to help grow your platform online outside of your book, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that has at least 3 purposes in that example that you just
it could have way more than that. Sure, yeah, but multi-purpose. You know what I mean? Dual purpose, multi-purpose, either way. But yeah.
No, that is a great point, actually, and that is probably a great way if you're thinking about motivation tactics for yourself, how you're that is a great way to do it. Is not only I'm writing in public, so there are people that are expecting commitment.
Yeah, it's the accountability.
It's the accountability.
If you don't post one that week, all of a sudden people are like, "Hey, what happened?"
Right.
These are supposed to be weekly.
It's a much shorter timeline, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier about some of us need a deadline in order to get things done, and it's very easy to sit here and say, I'm going to write a book in 60 days. It's fine, whatever. That's 60 days. It's so far away. 2 months from now is next year. It's forever from now, But if you have to sit there and say, okay, I need a blog post that I can post this Friday, every Friday for the next 2 months, 8 weeks? That is a much tighter deadline and much more motivating to a certain kind of person. Both of us included, I think.
Well, I've even seen people set it up where they don't even couch it as, hey, this is just for my blog. It's literally hey, I'm going to be writing my book in public, and it just happens to be posted on their blog or, something like that. But yeah, 100% multi-purpose content, I think is the output there. But the real benefit, I think, is that accountability, that piece where you're in public now, so people are like, hey, where is it this week? What's going on?
Yep. And I know there are definitely people that are listening to that and going, that sounds like my personal nightmare. I would rather die.
Well, all this in one way or another sounds like a personal nightmare.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's basically what writers go through every day.
Writing is such a weird experience in that it is so it's such an introverted, isolated hobby that people that tend to be more introverted are drawn to. But there are certain elements of it that you have to be an extrovert about. And it's a very weird mix of trying to bridge that gap between this is an insular activity, but also I cannot do it alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, which is a great segue to if you are somebody who does not want to write in public, but you do want to find accountability buddies or something like that. There are so many writing communities that are available, whether they're online or in person. If you are looking for an in-person one, if you want to find somewhere that you can go on a regular basis that's local to you, check your local library, check your local bookstore, coffee shops, breweries, any kind of place that has like community gathering spaces.
See, I have a big fear, and you noted this in the outline. I almost feel attacked here. You've got something here. It says, "Don't lie to your accountability buddies." Though that's silly.
I remember.
I would be that silly goose because I'd be like, "Yeah, I did my yep." And they'd want to see it, and I'd be like, "It's private. It's you'll see it when it's published."
That was something that I found very interesting when I was in grad school. So I went to a school that had 4 different within the graduate writing program. There were 4 different programs based on what genre. It was like so nonfiction, adult fiction, poetry, and writing for children, which was the catch-all for young adult, middle grade chapter books and picture books. And all 4 of the little subsections had very different opinions on sharing their work with each other. Like my cohort, we were like very like all the time, even outside of class, being like, "Hey, I wrote something last night, and I just would love another set of eyes on it. Can you take a look at it?" Like they'll still to this day, I will still every now and then like hear from one of them, be like, "Hey, I'm looking for beta readers for something that I'm working on. Like, are you willing to read this?" And then there were other students in other classes that you like their work assignments for class, you had to like pry them from their hands because they were so unwilling to to share what they considered like their work in progress. So, there's ways to go about this with whatever your comfort level is. Also, if the idea of meeting up with people in person, I believe Matt has shared a story on the podcast before about the time I
tried to create a group for horror writers in college.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you don't want that to happen to you, and you want to dip your toe in by starting with an online writing community, there are so many of those. Check Discord, check Circle, check Facebook, Tumblr, anywhere.
Is Tumblr still a thing?
It is. I mean, I'm not on it anymore, but it does still exist. Yeah.
Wow.
But think about any of those spaces that lend themselves to group organizations of any kind, and chances are good that you will find at least one writing community. And also, it doesn't have to be another writer. If you really want to just like, if you really don't want to get super, super invested in like sharing your writing with somebody else, but like you want to have, let's say I have a friend who's trying to build a running habit. And they're going to set themselves a goal that they're going to run 4 times a week. And I'm going to set myself a goal that I'm going to write 5 times a week. We can be each other's accountability buddies. Hey, did you run this week? How many times did you run? Are you going to do it again? I wrote this week.
I feel like that's where you're left open to be able to be dishonest. And I'd be like, yeah, man, I ran all 5 days.
Yeah, and again, the only person that you're disappointing there is yourself.
And peanut butter out of the jar.
Together?
Don't judge. What's wrong with that?
Marshmallows and peanut butter?
I mean, what do you want me to say? It's got to be extra crunchy peanut butter too. None of that creamy stuff.
Okay, we're gonna move on because I don't want to. I don't want to touch that. Honestly,
it's your loss.
Okay. Oh my God! Please, anything, literally anything. No, it's fine. To be fair, I don't actually like marshmallows, so that makes it.
But I mean, at some point in the annals of history, somebody was like, "What do you mean sweet and sour chicken? What do you mean you're going to put pineapple with Come on, that's disgusting. And then it
That's-
just became a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I just want to point that out.
No, you're right.
Okay.
I'm not trying to. I mean, we can fight about the crunchy peanut butter as much as you want, but I will
Wait,
not.
are you advocating for creamy?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, Lauren.
I don't want my peanut butter to crunch. I don't want my peanut butter and jelly sandwich to crunch when
That's
I bite
what
into it.
peanuts do.
Well, I don't like peanuts. I like peanut butter.
Oh my gosh. Let's move on.
Okay.
2025 is starting off on the wrong foot already.
Are you surprised?
I don't want to answer that.
Okay. If you are going to set goals for yourself as a writer, whether you are deciding I don't want to deal with all these like communities or like I don't want to try to figure this out on my own. I just want to like kind of sit down and focus on this and get started with something. Again, I'm going to recommend a habit tracker, whether you make your own or just literally just, you can go on Lulu right now and download a free template and print one off at cost for yourself that can just be your like writing habit tracker that you just use every day. And that's it, just to keep track of your progress or whatever. There are also some really, really great writing planners on the Lulu bookstore. Audrey Huey is a Lulu author that is a phenomenally
Gifted.
that's a great word. Gifted writing coach. She
also writes horror.
She is a great writer. She's written a lot of books herself, and she puts together writing planners every year. She does dated ones, so that's like the ultimate author's planner for every year, and then she also does like just general writing journals that are like habit trackers and stuff like that. They have
She also
all
does
the
custom
things.
ones.
She does. She has a lot of really cool stuff. I'm definitely going to link her in the show notes. She's also a great resource if you are working on building your writing habit in addition to these books that she does. But that's a great way to kind of get you started. If you're like, I don't really know what I want to do. I don't know what goals I want to set for myself. I just know that I want to write a book this year. You know, ask an expert. And this is a great way to start after you listen to this podcast episode. What do you think? Is there anything else that you can think of?
I think as it pertains to establishing writing habits, you know, and kind of how to set yourself up for success with a writing habit, I think that's a pretty good start. You know, I do think there's, again, as we talk through a lot of these, you know, there are times where I'm like, I cringe at what you're saying, and I'm like, that just won't work for me. But I did find myself as we talked through it going, well, you know what? Actually, maybe that would work for me. So I think the biggest takeaway here is, you know, again, I think as humans, innately, anything we're writing, we want to make sure it's great as we write it. And so for me, the biggest takeaway, or one of the biggest takeaways, is what you said earlier about, you know, don't get so hung up on it being perfect that first time around. Like, the important thing is that you just get it out onto paper. And I do agree with you after talking it through that giving myself, you know, a timed goal of like just write for 3 hours a week versus a word count goal. I agree now. I think the word count goal is better. Just get it on the paper. You can always come back through later and edit it, and, you know, 9 times out of 10 make an even better, you know, paragraph that way or sentence. But I think that's really helpful. I will say that, you know, I have been playing around with and exploring some AI assisted writing tools because I'm one of those who you talked about earlier where I kind of get stuck at the beginning, you know, like even if I've got a good sort of outline of what I want to put down, it still oftentimes takes me a little while to get started, and I could end up wasting a lot of time that way. And I've found that some of these tools are really helpful at giving me a jump off point, and then I can just go and it's fine. But so I would say, you know, there's probably some tools and things that people can look into that help with that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to plug the Lulu blog in here because Paul does a lot of software reviews and product reviews and stuff like that are specifically writer focused or publishing focused. But as a writer himself, he has great insight into a lot of these different
Yeah.
tools. So if
And
you're
he spends
curious
a lot
about
of
one,
time in those tools. too.
yeah, he really everything that he reviews, he actually like uses them himself before he will write any kind of review about it. They're not sponsored reviews. Like he actually looks them up himself and like tests out these tools. So I definitely recommend checking out. I'll link a couple in the show notes just to get you started. But I do think, like, I totally agree with everything that you just said. And one of the things that you said in there,
I love when you say that.
I know I've actually thought before about making a supercut of just all the times that I've said I agree with you as like
I'm going to start that
present
for
for
this
you.
year.
Okay, great.
Yep. This is the first episode of January. You've said that twice.
All right.
I'm going to keep a tally.
I'll start flagging it. But you said in there something about how you're listening to these tips and you're like, some of these things you're like, oh, like that stresses me out, or that wouldn't work for me, or I'm not sure how I would feel about that. Sometimes when it comes to something like this that is habit building, I think that is important to try those things anyway. Even if you do know that they're not going to work for you, even if you think they're not going to work for you. Like, I am somebody who used to think that the idea of outlining writing was absurd.
I'm the opposite.
I absolutely never, I did not like outlines. I wouldn't write them for essays. I wouldn't write them for fiction writing, for creative writing. I thought outlines were a waste of time. And I was a very big advocate for like, no, I'm going to go where the story takes me. Like the characters are going to tell me, or the essay is going to lead me in the direction that it's going in. Like,
is that college Lauren's voice? Like,
no.
Why are you going into a different character when you do that?
I don't know.
Who is that?
Some flighty high school manic pixie dream girl wannabe. I don't know.
That was a whole lot of words.
It was a whole lot of words.
Okay.
But I have done a full 180 on that, where I can't write so much as I can't write the outline for a podcast episode without outlining the outline first. Like, I am now very, very pro outline. And that was something that really, like, it took one of my friends in grad school being like, no, you got to try doing it this way. Or like, you have to, like, trust me, you are never, it's one thing to write a short story without an outline. It's another thing to write a book without an outline. And you really have to sit down and try this. So
I can't write anything without an outline.
Right. And if I hadn't been pushed that way, I would have taken me a lot longer to figure that out. So if there's something that you heard in this episode that you're like, I could see how that works, but I don't think it would work for me, try it anyway. Try it a couple of times. And if you're still like, nope, hate this. Okay. You tried it. Maybe you learned something else from it that you can apply in a different way and then move on. That is with so many of the things that we talk about on here. This is a customized experience for everybody. I'm not normally a big fan of blanket, like, this is how to create a writing habit, like very structured, rigid.
You did it again. Whose voice was that?
I don't know. But because I do think that it is something that is very unique to the individual person. So, take some tips, take some advice, listen to this, read some blog posts, look at journals, like writing journals or writing coaches' advice or whatever, and customize like a routine that works for you, that fits who you are as a person and fits your lifestyle and fits your writing goals. Just as long as you have them, because that's really the important part, is that you have to have goals.
Word count goals.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pro word count goals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or streaks. That's what I'm.
That
I'm
one's
pro
weird.
streaks.
I can't. Yeah. I'm too old for streaks.
Okay. Well, you're not a Tamagotchi.
My sisters had those things. They were great.
I wasn't a big fan of them, actually. I had an angel Tamagotchi, and then as soon as it died, I was like, well, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I'm never having another one of these ever again.
I distinctly remember on one occasion, I don't remember which sister it was, and I'm sorry, Angie or Marisa, whichever one of you it was, but I tried to kill their Tamagotchi. Well, because I just wanted to see what would happen.
Okay.
It didn't work.
Okay.
But I was just like, man, these things, like, how do you keep them from existing? Can you open it up and take the battery out? Like,
oh, you really tried to?
Yeah,
like,
I was trying to push buttons. Like,
wow.
I figured some sequence of buttons would, like, cause it to no longer exist. And when that didn't work, I was like, well, maybe I can just pull the battery out. I want to see what happens. But nothing. So It may have messed it up. I don't know. And I may have just dined myself into one of my sisters for something that was never noticed anyways. But either way, it's long enough now that
the statute of limitations is
Yes.
passed on this one.
the sibling statute of limitations.
All right. Well, if you have any advice on how to kill a Tamagotchi, do not email us. But if you are setting yourself a challenge, or if you're going to take us up on our challenge to write a book in 2025, and you want to let somebody know, you want to let two strangers on the internet know so that you have a little bit of accountability, send us an email at podcast@lulu.com and let us know that you're going to write a book this year.
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah.
Could be fun.
Sure.
And maybe we'll remember to check in on our own writing progress. Stay tuned. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But until then, good luck. Stop procrastinating and go write something.
Yep. Later.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about this episode, check out the show notes on publishprosperpodcast.com. Publish and Prosper is brought to you by Lulu.com. To hear more episodes like this one, please like and subscribe wherever you listen. Thanks for tuning in.